Hi everyone, welcome to Penalty Box Talk. I'm Grace Hand.
I'm Makena, Wright.
And so today, obviously a great week for us, we're going to start talking about the NHL playoffs, which the playoff picture is all the teams are in. The matchups are not quite finalized, but I think we have a pretty good idea of who's playing who. So we'll talk about that, give a couple takes on our picks, dark horses, whatever. But first, this is our first episode, so we kind of want to introduce ourselves a little, let you guys get to know us as people, a little more entertaining when there's a backstory to listen. So I'm going to throw it to you, Makena.
My name is Makena. I am a sophomore. I'm a sports media and communications major. I am from Canada, so hockey is a big topic that's close to home for me. I play D1 sports here. I play women's rugby. And that's really about it for me. I mean, I grew up playing hockey, so I love talking about hockey. I love talking about sports, and I love talking just to hear myself talk. So this is gonna be great for us.
It's gonna be perfect. All right, I'm Grace. I'm a sophomore here as well, also a sports media and communications major. Surprise, surprise. And also a D1 athlete. I'm on the women's fencing team here. I'm from Connecticut. So not as cool as Canada. Hockey's not as big of a sport here. This is more of a lacrosse area, not going to lie to you. I'm not a lacrosse fan, though, so I'm more of a hockey fan myself. I did not play, though. I played softball and soccer growing up. That being said, sports a huge part of my life, obviously. And I'm sure you will be able to tell very quickly, I love to hear myself talk. And I talk a lot and have a lot of opinions on a lot of hockey and other things. So this should be a nice, smooth flowing.
Yes, definitely.
Of course. So getting that out of the way.
Yeah, jumping right into it. I mean, May 2nd coming up, that's when playoff games are going to start. So I'm super excited. I cannot wait to start watching some of these matchups. I personally am rooting for the Calgary Flames. Every year they make a great playoff run. They look like they're going to be actual cup contenders, but I'm not holding out with them because they seem to always fumble the bag late in the game. So we'll see, but I am a diehard Flames fan, so I'm cheering for them.
They're kind of similar to Colorado like that, huh? Second round, a little bit of a toss-up there. But I like Calgary coming out of the West. I think that they've been pretty consistent all season long this year. They have some good veteran talent, which I think is going to be really important this year because a lot of the playoff teams are on the younger side. So I think that some good people who've been there, done that that's going to give them the drive to maybe push them over the edge.
Yeah, definitely. I think, looking at Calgary, a couple players to, watch for, obviously, is always going to be Johnny Gaudreau. He's a staple name for Calgary Flames. And Matthew Tkachuk. He's going to be great coming into the playoffs. I mean, they've had great seasons so far, both of them, registering tons of points. So they're going to be key players for Calgary coming into the playoffs for sure.
And Tkachuk always brings the physicality that you got to watch for.
Definitely.
Playoffs, Stanley Cup especially, always very gritty.
Yeah.
Kind of the physical games you don't always get to see in the regular season. And whenever there's a physical game in the regular season, you always hear the announcers, oh, this feels like a playoff atmosphere. Yeah. So you know for a fact that having him on their side is something that's going to help. Yeah. But I also think this might be a weird take given their ending of the season, but I think Minnesota could make a good run in the West.
I agree. I think Minnesota is going to be, I think they could be one of those underdogs that people don't really see, especially getting, like we talked about earlier, Fleury. They got Fleury, so that's a huge bonus for them for goaltender-wise. They have some really great talent, both on the blue line and in their forwards as well. So, I mean, I'm really excited to watch.
And they have Kaprizov, who's casually just one of the top points holders in the league, which honestly no one is talking about. It's so crazy.
Underrated. He is so underrated.
I didn't even know he was up there. I was looking at the lists a couple weeks ago, just kind of preparing for the playoffs. And his name, he was fifth at the time. I was like, are you kidding? You're hearing all about, obviously, the amazing season Matthews is having. And of course, McDavid, Draisaitl, the big names that are always on that points list. But here's this second-year player all the way at the top. I was very surprised. So
and you don't get to hear about him much. I mean, obviously we get to hear about the Austin Matthews. He's had a tremendous season. Mitch Marner. I love Mitch Marner. I mean, he is such a staple name, obviously too. But I love watching Matthews and Marner play together. They're so fun to watch. And then after the draft, I mean, they got Giordano in Toronto now. So I mean, Toronto's got a great lineup coming into the playoffs. I'm excited to see what they can do with it. it should be interesting for sure.
Oh, for sure. And that's a perfect transition to the Eastern Conference because it's been stacked all year.
Yeah.
It's been I think that the top teams have just been trading back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They did clinch all their spots a little earlier than the West. There was less question about who was going to make what when.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, between all of the teams that made the playoffs in the East, I think it's a total anyone's game situation. Like, obviously, you have Tampa, which surprisingly didn't come first out of the Atlantic this year. I kind of was expecting them to continue their run. But that being said, they've done this so many times. They have pretty much the same core group of people to make this deep cup run.
Yeah.
So I think that they have a chance, but surprisingly, they're not my favorites out of the Eastern Conference at all. I got to stick with my day one team from this year, and I got to go with Florida.
I was going to say Florida is right up there in the East for me. I am like ecstatic to watch them start playing. It's gonna be electric.
They're such an entertaining team to watch this year. They have insane talent. They have good goaltending, which I think was something that I thought was going to be their weakness. Bobrovsky last year wasn't the most consistent of goalies for them. Mm-hmm. And obviously Spencer Knight was just coming into the NHL. But that being said, as a tandem, they've backed up their offense. But I think that's something that they have that a lot of, like, you know, goalie superstar-centered teams don't have, is they have the offensive power. They're scoring huge amounts of goals. I think it's Ottawa, but they blanked Ottawa 4-0 last night. You know, so, but again, Ottawa. But still.
I mean, yeah, even like on big media outlets that are making their projections for what's going to happen with Stanley Cup, Florida is always number one. They're ranked number one coming into the playoffs. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch them. Yeah,
that being said, though, they did clinch the President's Trophy, and I have to be superstitious about that. There's been, I think it's like 2 in the past 15 years, 2 teams that have clinched the President's Trophy have won the Cup. I don't know if that's a psychological thing. Florida obviously lost to Tampa in the last year, which was a great series, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, underrated.
Yeah.
The most entertaining series I saw last year. But I don't know. I'm hoping they break it. I really like that group. I think that they work so well together. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Out of the teams that were eliminated, was there anybody that you were upset to see go?
Upset to see go? Not really. Surprised to see go, though, Vegas. I did think they were going to pull it off last minute. I didn't want them to. Yeah. Believe me, I'm not a Vegas fan. I don't like Vegas. I don't like how the organization has treated some of their star players.
Yeah, definitely.
That being said, though, I was not expecting them to miss the playoffs altogether. I was hoping for a first-round exit because I thought they were going to make it.
Yeah. I got to say, I was upset to see Anaheim get beat out, because I mean, I love Trevor Zegras. I think he is an unreal player, and he's young too, and he's like just starting to break out. He was having some major huge games in the last little bit of the regular season, so I was upset to see them go, because I was looking forward to watching Zegras play.
I think that I can't really say that I was upset to see them go, in the fact that I think they're going to do so well in the next couple of years. I think they need another year. Granted, obviously, kind of similar to the Rangers situation. It would have been great to see them make the playoffs and see how far they could go with the team they have. I think they have a couple of moves left to make, and maybe just shoring up their team chemistry with the young kids and seeing how that goes for them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to say that, like, I hate the New York Rangers, because I don't hate the New York Rangers. They've just never been a team for me that I'm like, I love the New York Rangers. You either have your diehard, I love the New York Rangers, like, I bleed New York Rangers, or you have your absolutely not, I hate them. I'm like kind of that middle of the road, like, I don't really care. I take it or leave it with me.
You're a rare one.
I'm a rare one. No, but I don't know. I think this playoff season is going to be extremely exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, and obviously as a big Rangers fan, got to plug my team a little bit. I'm a little nervous, not going to lie. I think that we've been carried by our insane goaltending for most of this season. But that being said, I think that what a lot of people are kind of overlooking is after the trade deadline, the Rangers really did shore up their offensive talent. Like, for most of the season, they were playing a AHL fourth line and half an AHL third line, and like somehow still winning games because Shesterkin is a god.
Yeah, he's
which is insane. By the way, if he doesn't win Vezina, it's rigged, because what? I say he should be in the conversation for Hart too, but I think Matthews is just having too good of a season.
Yeah, unreal season. I mean, McDavid's also in another talk for Hart. I mean, he will always be a conversation for those kind of awards that come out, but I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna beat Matthews out of that.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, he's all that anybody has been talking about. If you are talking about hockey, somehow Austin Matthews still comes into the conversation every single time. So I think he's got that one secured for himself.
I think so too. All right, so what are you thinking? We'll ask this two ways. What's your like dream Stanley Cup final matchup, East and West, and then what's your like logical one? Like what do you think's actually going to happen and what would be your ideal?
Ideal, honestly, I'm always going to take Calgary for the West because that's my hometown. So I'd love to see Calgary make it for the West. And East, I mean, logical, and what I'd like to see is Florida. I mean, I think that's going to be like a realistic for the East, and that's what I'd like to see. So Florida, I'm going to keep for both for the East. In the West, I don't even know what's logical coming out of the West right now. I mean, it is always such a toss up, and like those are the Western teams are the ones that like they surprise me the most usually. I wouldn't be surprised even if Oilers made it in there. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, they have to make a deep run at some point, right? Like, they have too much talent on that team to just continue to keep losing in the first round.
Yeah,
Same
definitely
goes for Toronto, I guess, though I just find it entertaining that they somehow keep losing in the first round after being so good.
They're the same as Calgary in that sense.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's like, oh my god, this might be Toronto's year. And it's like, at home, you either have diehard Calgary Flames, Oilers fans, or you have your diehard Maple Leafs fans, which is weird because, I mean, we're Alberta, so it's like we usually stick with Alberta teams, but you do sometimes get your Toronto Maple Leafs fans out there, and it's like they're like, yeah, this is our season, this is our year, and it's always exciting to watch them not make it that far. But who knows? I think Toronto has a really good shot this year.
I think so too, and I think that they've been playing on another level, and I think. But that being said, like so many teams are just so good right now. I don't like. Normally there's like a clear case of like momentum going into the playoffs. Like even though I know people like stop playing their top players towards the end, but like normally you still have something telling you like, oh, this team. I would say Florida is probably the hottest team right now.
Definitely.
But that being said, all of these teams are coming off like major confidence boosters. Like the Rangers, Chris Kreider with his 50-goal season, that's huge.
That's massive.
And Artemi Panarin might hit 100 points somehow, which who knows. But like with Calgary, they were still rolling. They went through a little bit of a slump, if I'm not mistaken, but they started to pick it back up before the end. Same with Minnesota, slump, started to pick it up again, having like their top scorers start popping out. Even Colorado, you know? Colorado is so disappointing to me because I had them the past 2 years winning the Cup. I thought they were going to do it. They choked at the last minute.
They look so good coming in, and that's the case with lots of these teams, I think, and I think that's why like hockey is such a hard one. Like NFL, you usually, I mean, this year was crazy obviously, but you usually know like coming in what's gonna happen. Hockey is such a difficult one in that sense, especially because they play such like it's a 7-game series, so it's like anything can happen. Like you can look like you're gonna sweep, and then it's like the team switches, and it's like it just turns, it flip-flops all the time. That's why I love playoff season, NHL-wise.
Yeah, and NHL playoffs are so much different. It's a different game than the regular season, like 100%. Like the way that these teams come out and play, it's not only a passion thing, it's a whole different game strategy for them. And I think that that's part of the reason, like you just said, like a couple years ago when Columbus swept the President's Trophy Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round, no one saw that coming. No. But that team just put it in gear, put their heads down, and grinded out a win. Yeah. And then another, and then another, and then another. And all of a sudden, they, like, made it to the next round. Yeah. When no one expected it. And I think that's part of the beauty of all this.
All I can say is I am extremely excited. I don't like sitting here saying what I think is going to happen because I'm usually always wrong. But, I mean, the top teams that I'm looking at coming into this is Florida, Calgary, even like logically, not even just as a fan wise, logically I'm looking at Calgary, and Minnesota I think honestly might surprise us.
I think so too.
Those are my four.
Too. I say my 4 would probably be Minnesota, Florida, obviously. Unfortunately for me, I say Tampa because they just... Actually, no, you know what? I take this back, and it's even more unfortunate for me because I don't like this team at all personally, but Carolina has just been really, really solid, and I think we've kind of not touched on them.
We haven't, no.
But I think that they've just been consistently a solid team. They were pretty much ran away with the Metro until the end there, when they started to kind of slow down a little bit. So I'm gonna put them as my other team out of the East. And then fourth team, I'm going to say it's Colorado's year. It's risky. I hope they make the conference finals at least, because I think that they could win. I think they could win a cup if they make it to the finals, but the West, everyone's just good this year. Like,
I mean, except for like Seattle, but
yeah,
that's a different story. But they had some trades at the end of the deadline that, I mean, I think these next couple of seasons, Seattle could be one of these teams that we're sitting here talking about.
I agree. I think that they did like the opposite of what Vegas tried to do. Vegas was like, we're going to come out here day one, try and win a cup. And Seattle's like, no, we're going to kind of stock up on our picks, like get the young talent and grow an actual franchise. And I think we're starting to see that might be the better move, given that Vegas kind of lost out on its cup picture and now isn't even in the playoffs, has a bunch of old players who are going to be either traded or retiring within the next couple of years. And now what did they have? They traded all their picks for these like veterans. So that'll be an interesting watch.
I think looking back at Vegas in their inaugural season, I remember like they were good. Like,
they were so good.
And I remember like everybody hating on Vegas because, I mean, they were a new team. No one wanted to see them do well, I don't think. And I mean, from the start, like I always like the underdog, you know. So I was a Vegas fan. My brother actually, like, he played hockey his juniors in California, so they go to this big showcase in Vegas, and they played in the Vegas Knights practice arena.
Oh my.
So I mean, there was like the whole, like, we got to like see that, like it was like brand new, like just built, like, it was like unreal. And I mean, like, it's just so crazy to see them looking like they were gonna be one of those top teams that people are gonna talk about, like how you be constantly, like, Toronto's always talked about in a positive manner, and I thought Vegas was going to be that. It's just crazy to see them completely drop off, honestly, the map a little bit. Like, not completely, like, they're still in the conversation, but to watch them fumble the bag like they did, it's surprising.
It's also, like, kind of disappointing. I'm not a big fan of Vegas. I was, first of all, in 2018 rooting for the Caps. I'm so glad they won. I wanted Ovi to get his cup, but, like, I just think it's disappointing to see a team, like, with so much opportunity and so much talent, like, I don't want to say waste it, but, like, waste it.
But
they did waste it. They just took a gamble and they played their cards wrong.
Yeah.
I think that just the other teams were so good. But kind of switching topics, because I think that this is something I've been thinking a lot about with the playoffs coming up and trying to get Rangers playoff tickets and failing because they are ridiculously expensive. But oh well, maybe next round, if they make it, fingers crossed. That being said, and we were just talking about Vegas, what are some arenas that you would love to visit? Because I, for one, like I just said, don't like Vegas, but their arena atmosphere is electric. And I just think, especially in the playoffs, I can imagine that place is buzzing.
Yes.
So what are some places either that you've been in, had that good atmosphere, or that you'd like to go because you can just see, like, the passion of the fan base?
I would love to be at a Panthers home game. I mean, Florida's just different to begin with. So then to get around those fans, I mean, I think that'd be amazing. Anaheim is one that I would love to be in. My brother's got to go to a couple of Anaheim games, and, like, when he just sends photos, it looks, like, unreal. Like, it looks so cool. Speaking from, like, just being at home and stuff, being to a couple Flames games back in the day, that one's always an exciting one to go to. I mean, Calgary always shows up for the Flames, so that's a good arena to be in. I love being in the Saddle Dome. But there's so many arenas that I love to be in. I mean, like, obviously, getting to see the Rangers at home, that'd be unreal.
It is, believe me.
But, I mean, I've never experienced it. Me and my roommate, we tried to get tickets to some of the regular season games, and we just couldn't make a date work, but just the thought of, like, getting to be in there would be unreal.
It is. I love Madison Square Garden. It's just the energy of being, like, one of the oldest arenas, like, in the country, you know?
And it, like, doesn't even matter whether it's sporting, it's, like, just a concert. There's, like, that venue on its own, undefeated.
Agreed. I agree with you with Florida. I am obsessed with the Florida 90s Cup run where they lost to the Avalanche, unfortunately, in the final. But the year of the rats, when they would throw the rats on the ice, like the plastic rats, I hope anyone from Florida, if you're listening, please bring back the rats, because I think that is the most entertaining way to get in an opponent's head that I have ever seen in my life. I think there were, I don't know if you've ever seen the videos for that. Thousands of rats. Every goal they'd get, they'd throw the rats on the ice. It was ridiculous. See, I hope it happens again.
And that's exactly what I mean by Florida is just different, because you would not get that anywhere else than Florida.
Exactly. Like, especially to that scale. I also, Winnipeg Whiteout, those look like so much fun. The fans get so into it. And I think that, like, a cohesive arena environment where everyone's doing the same thing, it's like high school sports, like a high school football game times, like, 8,000 people, you know?
Like when you see, like, the Penn State Whiteout games. Like,
oh my gosh.
It just looks so unreal, like, to be a part of that.
Yeah, it just brings the adrenaline, too.
And, like, could you imagine being a player, like, on those kind of games? It's, like, the atmosphere would just, like, make you play, like, 10 times better.
Exactly. That's exactly, I think, what they're thinking about when they're talking about, like, home ice advantage. Yeah. Like, feeding off a crowd of, like, that size is insane.
Yeah.
I think Boston TD Garden is pretty good with that too.
Yeah.
Also, I think their goal song is just unbelievably, like,
what is their goal song?
I forget what it's called. It's like I don't want to start singing it. That'd be really awkward for me, but it's like it's like a electronic, like, oh
yes.
Ignore the bad voice. I'm sorry. But, like, no, I think that, like, when the fans get into that, I also don't like the colors black and gold for sports teams, because I'm very anti-Steelers, anti-Penguins. But that being said, I think that, like, darker arenas, like, just have a different kind of electricity.
Yeah, and that's one thing. My grandma, she actually got to go to a Vegas game at home, and, like, they have a darker arena as well. It looks so cool. Like, she showed us the photos. That is one, like, although I'm not as big as a Vegas fan as I used to be, I'd still, like, jump at any opportunity to get to go watch Vegas at home.
And one that I went to, Columbus, I wish that team was better, because having that cannon is so freaking cool. I went to a Rangers-Columbus game, and the Rangers won. But I said to my mom, I'm like, Columbus has to score a goal, because I am seeing that cannon in person. And it is just as cool as you would think it is. Oh, it's just so much fun to see.
I can only imagine. I don't know. This is just... It's making me want to go watch hockey now.
Yeah.
That's why I cannot wait.
I'm ready. Rangers Caps tonight. I can't wait. Yeah. Our last game of the season, it figures out who we play in the playoffs.
Yep.
Either the Caps or the Penguins. I don't know who I want more. Probably the Penguins, actually, come to think of it. I don't trust Ovechkin to not be, like, God tier again.
Yeah.
It's scary. So scary.
No, I think this is going to be an exciting playoff run for all the teams. I think there's going to be some upsets.
Oh, for sure. Guaranteed. Always.
Always. I mean, always when it's hockey. But I don't think anybody's picks are safe right now.
No.
I don't think anybody should be making picks right now. Like, I think this is a very, like, toss-up in the air moment for hockey. So.
Yeah, it's really, really, and I know people say this every year, but I really mean it this year. It's anyone's cup.
Yeah.
Like, literally, there's maybe, like, 3 teams that I just don't see at all even making the conference finals. But, like, that's 3 out of 16.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot.
There's a lot of games that are going to get played and a lot of action that we're going to get to see. So.
All right.
I'm excited.
Me too. Well, thank you. This was fun.
This was so much fun. I cannot wait for the updates that are going to be coming in the next week or so.
Oh yeah, and we'll be back here commenting on the first week of the playoffs, which start on Monday, May 2nd. So
May 2nd, tune in. You got to be back here because we're going to have updates. Once again, I'm Makena Wright.
And I'm Grace Hand. Have a good day or night.